You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Amber Marti.
If you're thinking that hard about it, there's a reason for that. And, kind of like I had the mindset of, it's just a year. If I hate it, I can move back. You're not signing your life away. You're not signing your voice away like an Ariel. Like, you just have to go with your gut and, do the best you can with what you have and the information you have.
Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia. I am your host. I am a self-care specialist as well as a certified astrologer, and every week I come here to share a little bit from within. This week is a little bit different because I took a kind of spur of the moment vacation to Florida to visit my sister, and so I decided what could be better than to use some of this time that I'm spending with her to actually bring her on the podcast and kind of share some of the kind of conversations that we have and hopefully gain some of her perspective as she has been such an adventure over the past year and a half. She has packed up her life, moved from Denver to Florida, and just kind of started over. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring her on. I'm going to ask her a lot of questions, and I hope that it is a conversation that you're able to take so much away from. Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
So we are currently sitting in a hotel room in St. Augustine, Florida. How has this day trip been for you?
It's been a lot of fun. I've been wanting to go to the beach for a while.
This was the perfect excuse to do it.
Yes, my roommates don't love the beach as much as I do, and I've never been to St. Augustine, and I've been wanting to go for quite a while. And so I'm glad we got the opportunity to, especially post Hurricane Nicole. We weren't sure what the situation was going to be like, but we're glad it all worked out. We've had a fun day.
We have. I've been saying for a long time, I need the ocean. I need the ocean. And so you made it happen.
Yes.
So if you can take us back to beginning of 2021 for you. You were living outside of Denver. You had just adopted a cat. Tell us, let's start there. Let's start with the cat. What made you decide to get a cat?
Felicia sounds really surprised because I've been allergic to cats my whole life. And I've never had a cat. And so to this day, I say, who let me get a cat? Because I was at a friend's house and they had a cat that was just playing on their floor. Like it would whack their legs when they would go by in their kitchen when they were just trying to cook. And I thought it was so funny and so cute. And I was like, I want a cat. I did want some type of companion. And what better than a companion that can kind of live independently like I like to do, but also be around. So I decided to look up the Humane Society in the area, and I saw this cat named Mona Lisa. And she had one eye just taken out, and she looked old and sad, and I really had a place in my heart for her. And I was like, I just feel like I need to go get her. And so I had the day off of work, and I called my friend who had a cat, and I was like, will you come with me? Because I don't know anything about cats. And he said, sure. So we went to the Humane Society. I said, I'm looking for Mona Lisa. And they said, oh, she's in there. And it was these big kennels. Well, they weren't kennels. They were like the big, large ones that you can like step in. Like that cats, if you've ever been to a Humane Society or a shelter, they're like the big cat condos, I guess is what they call it. Yeah. Well, it's not a room, but it's a little room. Personal room for a cat. Anyway.
You stepped into the room with Mona Lisa.
Well, I tried, but they had cat trees in every room. And Mona Lisa was on the very top next to the ceiling. And I think she was just too scared. And I was like, psst, 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 come down. Like, I got some treats. Like, he'd give me, like, treats, the guy who was working there. And some, like, jingly toys. And she wanted nothing to do with me. And then I heard, meow, meow, meow. And I look over and there's this cat reaching his paw out, like waving it, like, over here, hello. So I was like, okay, I guess I should go see this cat because he's either meant to be mine or he's really lonely and would like some attention. So either way, I'm going to go see him. So I said, hello, guy working here. Can I see this cat? So I opened up the kennel room and I just hopped in there with him and sat down. And Micah was his name, just came and sat on me and started purring and rubbing against me. And this is what I originally wanted, because one of the reasons I wanted Mona Lisa was it said her personality was like a snuggle bug and will be your best friend. And I thought that was so nice. And it was just so different from what I saw with her. And I think she just came out of like she was pretty new, recently out of surgery or foster home. So I'm sure she just needed some time to adjust. But once I sat with Micah, that was it. They say that your animals choose you. So I went to the front desk and I said, okay, I'm interested in Micah, but I don't have anything. I don't have a litter box. I don't have food. I don't have anything. They're like, okay, well, you can give us, I think it was like $50 and we'll hold him for you. But, if we don't, like there's going to be other people and they're probably going to get him because there's already been people looking at him. So I said, okay, I guess I'll just get him then. And so they put him in a box. He's a big cat. He's like 14 pounds. And they put him in a little cardboard box that like squeezed him. And I went with my friend to PetSmart and I heard meow, 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 meow. The entire time. And he, to this day, hates the car. And so we went to PetSmart and got all this stuff. And he was so scared. He's 8 years old. He was 7 years old at the time. And they said that their owners dropped him and his brother off 2 days before because they said they weren't allowed to take pets into the place they were moving into. So I felt really bad for him, like 7 years of living with the same people and then just dropped off at a shelter. And so I'm sure he was really sad and scared. So
just like you were scared to be suddenly a cat owner.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that phone call I got. Guess what? I just got a cat. What? Yeah. So you got the cat in early last year in March of 2021. And then you decided to move to Florida in July of 2021. So did you know when you got Micah that you wanted to move?
I had no idea, or I probably wouldn't have gotten him. I mean, I love him now. I have no regrets, but looking back, if I would have known I was moving across the country, I wouldn't have gotten a cat, because we could have a whole podcast on just that plane ride over. It was not...
Yeah, maybe we'll give a little peek into that. But first, I'm curious, like, tell us what happened for you that made you realize, okay, I want to move to Florida.
Well, right before then was COVID, as everyone knows. And so I lived in a one-bedroom apartment by myself. The only people I really hung out with was my family and a few friends. But everything was shut down. It made me really realize how much I value doing things. And I realized, too, that like even before COVID, the people I was around are just more homebodies. And I'm more of an adventurer and want to do things and plan things. And a lot of those things I couldn't. And I'm more than happy to do things alone. I'm very independent. But like I can't go camping alone without wondering if I'm going to get kidnapped or killed by a bear, or like kayaking, or like, because Colorado has a lot more, like, I guess you can say, dangerous activities, so to speak, that wouldn't be necessarily responsible to just go out on your own. And so it was the end of 2021 when I think it was just very cold. I despise the cold. And I was like, there's these really cheap flights to Orlando. The company I was with at the time just had an office out there. So I was like, I can go work out there for a week so I don't have to miss any work. And I can stay with my friends who I've known for a long time that live out here and work with me. And it'll be great, just like a week vacation. And my mom agreed to watch Micah and check on him. So I packed my bags, came out here, and it just felt right.
What felt right? What were the green lights?
Well, one, it was warm. And I don't know if a lot of you have been in Denver in the springtime, but it is not always warm in the spring. It can sometimes snow into May. And you land in Orlando and it's warm and humid. And as much as a lot of people hate that about Florida, it was something that was like a sigh when you come from cold Colorado. So my friends met me and we went back to their house, and they lived on this beautiful lake in Celebration, which is right outside Disney. And it was just so nice being outside where it's not cold. And that's like, I know I'm mentioning that a lot, but like that was the majority of the reason why I booked this trip, to get out of the cold. But I had, my people I was staying with, my coworkers, I had some other friends in the area that lived out here that I knew from the Disney College program. And I just realized everyone out here is more on the wavelength that I want to be on as far as activities. It's like they want to go to Disney. They want to go
The farmer's market.
The farmer's market, exactly. Like little things that it's just like refreshing. And I realized on that trip how much I need that to keep my life moving, because I felt very stagnant for a couple of years leading up to that. Everyone would think it was fine. I was happy, but I just felt like there was no direction. And it was very hard thinking about moving. And when I first started that trip, it didn't even cross my mind once. But the more I was there, like I remember even being on a Teams meeting with my boss who was back in Denver. And he even said like, "Oh, wow, you seem so happy there. Like, you should move there." And like everyone just kept making a bunch of comments. Different people would be like, "Man, you should just move here. You seem so happy," or "You're just glowing," or whatever. And I would say like, haha, that's funny. Like, it's fun here, but like my life is in Denver. My family's there, and they're the majority of who I hang out with. And they'd be really sad if I left. And I just bought a cat, and like it's just not realistic. But then I noticed I kept extending my trip a day or 2 days.
Well, I have to intervene, because I remember you calling me about a week into your trip. And it was right before you decided to extend it. And I remember your face, like you just had a totally different energy about you. And I remember like looking at you, we were on FaceTime, and I was like, "You seem really happy." And you're like, "Yeah, everyone keeps joking about like I should move here." And I was like, "Do you think that's something you would do?" And you were like, "No, like Mom would miss me way too much." And then I was like, "She would be fine." And you were like, "Really?" Like,
I didn't say really.
But it was kind of like that idea of like you have a gate up, and like what if that's not a real gate? And then I think you kind of started to push that door open a little bit, and then you're like, "Well, what if I like look for maybe you were like, maybe I should stay a couple days." Do you remember that?
I was like, if I was going to move down here, like while I'm down here, I should like try to look at some apartments, like see what that looks like.
How much
is it? Exactly. Just look into it, not making any decisions. So I had a friend drive me during lunch to a couple apartments in the area. And with the time constraint, we didn't get to look as much as I wanted to, because especially when it was right out of COVID, like you had to make appointments in apartments still to get tours, and it's a little harder than it is nowadays or before COVID. But because of the time constraint, I didn't get to look as many as I wanted to, and I didn't settle on one. And I didn't decide 100% I was going to do it yet, so I wasn't too worried about it. But then it was just something about the last couple days staying with my friends. Like we'd play bananagrams and like little things that I just felt happy. I guess is the word.
I just need this.
Yeah, it was just like refreshing. And I was like, why? I knew that telling like my mom especially would be hard, but she always says all she wants is for her kids to be happy. And if this was going to make me happy, then it was going to make her happy. And she loves to vacation and go to Disney. In today's society, it's so easy. Like me and my sister talk multiple times a day still, and we FaceTime, and there's texting and Instagram and like there's like endless.
I feel like we're closer now.
Why? Yeah.
Than we
because
were.
You have to try.
Yeah, you have to stay connected.
You have to make a choice to stay connected instead of just seeing them out of obligation. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier nowadays. I was like, so it's not like I'm moving away 50 years ago and be like, "I'll write you a letter once a month. Just hope to see you again," you know? Like, it's fine. So eventually when I did get home and tell her, you know, she was sad. I can see it because she was really going to miss me. But she also knew when she FaceTimed me and talked to me that she's everyone I told when I came home said, "Yeah, I figured that was coming." But what I told her, I was like, it's just a year. Like, I'm signing a year lease from somewhere. If I hate it or I miss it here too much, I stop and I pack up and I go back. Just as easy as it was, you know, that it is to like FaceTime and message and all now, it's just as easy to move. Like, yes, it's a pain in the butt, but like I could get on a flight tomorrow if I wanted to. And that's what I had to keep reminding myself. Like, yes, it's a huge change, but everything is reversible to an extent, you know.
Or figure outable.
Figure outable, yes. That's a better way to put it.
Reversible. Not true.
Yeah, that's true.
But everything you can figure out.
You just have to focus on the temporary. Like, okay, I'm signing a year lease. That's all I'm locked into. After that, if I want to move to Denver, I can. If I want to move to Hawaii, I can. Yeah. If I want to extend it, I can. But you just have to look at what is realistic right now and focus on that.
So one of the things I think is important to spend a little time talking about is the logistics. So it's interesting because you said you took this trip in May and then you ended up moving in the beginning of July. So you had a lot to get done in a short period of time. And I will say on the record that you were very, very stressed during that time, which is totally normal. But how did you get through, like, once you made that decision, your lease was up in July, like, you just had to go. Like, can you talk a little bit about that time, like, how you dealt with the stress, what kept you sane, what felt like it was going to be too much, and then, like, how did you get through it?
Well, I cope with anxiety by making lists. So, yes, it was stressful, as you said, as it would be for anybody, but I focused on my list. What needs to get done? I need to order furniture. And again, it was during 2021 where all furniture is back ordered, and I didn't get to look at all the apartments, so I had to do a lot of my research online and look at apartments, and I tried to do a lot of research on location. And I knew I wanted to be next to Disney, but I didn't want to be in too touristy of an area, and I didn't want to live in a place that didn't upkeep on, like, pest control, because I don't want lizards and cockroaches in my house, which happened anyway. But that's Florida. And I had to order my bed, my couch, because I only flew down with me, Micah, 2 suitcases checked, and 1 carry-on suitcase and a backpack. And then we also shipped my car with a bunch of stuff, like my TV and my cooking stuff and everything basically that would fit in my car.
That's all you
Florida.
had?
That's all I had. So I didn't bring any furniture.
So you had to sell all the furniture you had?
Yeah, I sold all the furniture, and I just had to start over, basically. But I just had to keep going back to my list and say, okay, the couch is ordered. What are we going to do about a bed? And then I'd have to kind of start over and be like, okay, well, what beds are good? I don't want to just get a cheap bed because you spent a third of your life in bed and you want to make sure you have a good one. I thought that was going to be a quick thing, but they were on back order. So then I had to deal with the stress of, okay, well, I'm not going to have a bed for 2 weeks. So then I have to order an air mattress now. And I'm like, where am I supposed to ship this stuff? So then I was lucky enough to have those friends that I stayed with in May. I was able to ship some stuff to them, and they were nice enough to bring everything to the apartment and pick me up from the airport, and to this day, they're lifesavers.
Yeah, especially because that plane ride, I think it's a story worth sharing.
Yeah, and it's a story I'll always remember. Traveling with a cat in general on a plane is not fun, even if they were really calm and liked traveling, but traveling with one that screams like they're getting murdered on the way to the vet, I knew it was not going to be a good time. So this vet gave us some drugs for him to test out, that it's just supposed to make him sleepy. Not supposed to knock him out, but just like kind of chill him out. And so I gave those to him because they said do a couple trial runs, make sure they don't have any bad reactions. And so we gave it to him, and he did. He just chilled. He went to bed. I was like, great. This is going to be perfect. What I didn't know until after the whole plane ride, when I did more and more research, is that it will just amplify whatever they're feeling. So when I gave it to him, the trial runs, he was chill. We were relaxing, and so it made him more relaxed. The problem was the day of is that he went from packing at my house to going to my aunt's house for 2 days, to going to my parents for a day, and then getting in the car where I was like trying to shove a pill down his throat, and that was probably stressful for him. So he has to be in the crate the whole time, and you put it under the seat, and that was a whole mess too, because then you have to do research on what cat carrier to bring and which one's going on what airline. Like, there's so many logistical parts that like I didn't have the option to get stressed out about and just freak out and say never mind. I just had to say what's next on the list. It has to get done. Yeah.
So you put him under the seat.
So I put him under the seat. And I'm like, oh God, hopefully he'll just go to sleep soon. It's turbulence right now, taking off, but I'll be fine. Like 15 minutes in, I was watching Will and Grace on my phone, and I felt something brush against my leg. And I looked down, and it's Micah trying to escape into the aisle. I was like, oh my God. So I grab him, and I grab the crate. And I throw him back in, thinking like, oh my God, they're going to have to I'm going to be one of those people on YouTube because, this lady's cat escaped, and now we have to deplane because they don't have a crate. And because I thought he scratched his way out. But he just was really clever and unzipped it. So luckily and unluckily for him, I threw him back in there, zipped it, and had to hold him on my lap in his crate for the next 3.5 hours on a booked flight.
While he
went, meow, meow.
You don't need to do the sound because basically it was just very loud.
For 4 hours.
I mean, my question is, how did you survive that plane ride?
I think I disassociated. All I remember is looking at him and being like, please, I'll do anything. I'm not very religious, but I was like, if there is a God, I'm praying to all of them. Any of the gods listening, please, just for 2 minutes. And so I was so desperate, and I knew if I can get him out of the crate, he would stop. Because he doesn't like being I wouldn't be either if I was shoved in a little crate and shoved under a seat. I'd be crying too. But anyway, I needed a break. I needed to get him out of the kennel. And so we went to the bathroom multiple times. And of course I sat in the middle seat. So the poor people next to me, and I had to be like, excuse me. And then I took him to the bathroom, and I took him out in the tiny little bathrooms, and I just held him like a baby.
Did he stop?
And he stopped crying, and I was like, oh, thank God. And I was like, this is probably what it's like to be a parent.
How long can I
stay how long can I stay in here without somebody knocking on the door?
So when you got off that plane, you must have been one of the most stressful days of your entire life.
And I don't get very stressed out very easily because I'm a very matter-of-fact person who's just like, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah, she's a Capricorn rising.
Yeah. But yeah, looking back, is one of the most stressful times. And, my friend Javier picked us up, and he was nice enough to even bring us to lunch. And so we ate at Zoe's Cafe, and I brought Mike out, opened his crate, put him on a leash. And if I could show you the picture, it's so funny. He just looks at me his mouth's a little open, his eyes are glazed, he's hi, and he's looking at me what is happening?
You guys were both
But he finally was chill because I unzipped it and he was able to have the freedom.
Well, at that point, he must have exhausted himself,
right?
too.
Oh my God. Well, he wasn't just meowing on the 4-hour plane ride. It was the 2 hours waiting at the airport. Then it was the hour driving to the airport. That's 6 hours of meowing straight and crying. And then he would get on his back and try to scratch his way out. And I was like, stop it. Stop, please, please. The flight attendant even came over and said, can we give him some Benadryl? I was like, no, he's already maxed out on these prescribed drugs.
Oh,
so that's how Florida started. And then I got there and he was just hiding in boxes, and my AC went out the first day, and it was July in Florida. And I was like,
very
oh boy.
stressful entrance.
It was what did I get myself into?
Obviously, you gave yourself a year lease to get comfortable. So I guess looking back, when did you really start to feel, have you gotten into a stride here? And when did you first feel that? And what were some of those clues that you were on the right track?
I think that's a very complex question. I moved down here and I ended up living 7 minutes away from Disney World and got an annual pass. And I'm a very independent person, so I was happy to go to the parks all the time. And like I said, I had some friends out here from the college program that I was able to hang out with, and coincidentally one of those friends moved back to Florida 2 weeks after I did. So it was a great opportunity because she also was kind of reestablishing her life here, and so it was perfect because we were able to hang out a lot. And we went kayaking in the farmer's market, and she actually introduced me to an orchestra because she plays the cello too. And so we played with the Central Florida Community Arts Orchestra, and it just was so amazing to feel a sense of belonging. I'm finally with people who like to do things, and it's warm, and this just feels like it fits like a puzzle.
Which, that's really cool when things start to fit like a puzzle, because I feel that's the universe telling you yeah, you're on the right track. So one of the things that I'm curious about is, anytime you go out into the world and you make a big life change, I think it gives you a chance to kind of reinvent yourself. Do you feel like you are a different person in some ways than you were when you were in Denver?
Yes, because I wasn't stuck in the same everyday routine like I was in Denver. Get off work, go to my parents' house, go home, watch a movie, go to work. The same thing with maybe a couple days of variety, like go to my sister's house after work, then go home, see Micah, eat dinner, go to bed, And so here, because it's endless summer, as a lot of the license plates in Florida say, it's year round of just doing different things, and every week it's something different. Like we go to the farmer's market in Winter Garden frequently, and it's like, oh, well, now we realize there's this French cafe. And so we go to the French cafe when people come into town now. And it's just, it's endless because Orlando is meant to be like a tourist place. And there's so many places outside of Orlando now, in the suburbs that we're exploring. And I'm able to really...
You're able to live out what you hoped for, a sense of adventure, and you're living that out.
Finding that adventure.
Love that. So, no regrets so far, a year and a half into your adventure?
No, I love Florida sometimes.
Well, I mean, so has it only been sunshine and roses?
No, a friend moved in with me last year, and for the past year in the apartment, I just moved into her house because it was getting built. But the year that she was living with me in the apartment, it was one thing after another. Starting in like February of this year, her dog got fleas, and then we had like cockroaches in the house, and then a dishwasher caught on fire, and then it was just one thing after another. And then her dog got bladder stones, and then she had to have surgery, and it was just
and the
a
house
spiral.
Was being
and then
built.
The house was being built, and
it
got postponed
got
2 days after our lease ended, and so we had to figure out what we're going to do about the lease, and we had to extend 5 days and hope that it didn't keep getting extended. And
it's been very stressful.
It's been a lot, but I'm lucky that I was in good company and still am. And just because you're living out your true life of adventure, or maybe you moved somewhere to become more of a homebody and want independence, whatever you're looking for, it's not going to be perfect, and you have to decide, is where you're at, you're getting more value even with the downs than you were at your current place with the ups.
Is there any, after like considering everything you've been through, the ups and the downs, like taking a huge risk, what would you say to somebody else who's maybe thinking like, should I do it?
Just do it, like Nike says. But in all seriousness, because if you're thinking that hard about it, there's a reason for that. And, kind of like I had the mindset of, it's just a year. If I hate it, I can move back. You're not signing your life away. You're not signing your voice away like an Ariel. Like, you just have to go with your gut and, do the best you can with what you have and the information you have.
How do you know the difference between, like, things that you would like to do and things that you should do?
Well, I think for me, like, I always said, like, oh, I want to move to Hawaii, I want to move to Florida. Like, it was like an idea that sounded nice, but it's when I was in Florida that, one, like I said, it felt like a puzzle piece. Like, it just felt right. And two, everyone said it. You seem so happy there. Why don't you move there? Like,
it was confirming it. The universe was confirming it.
Yeah.
For you.
And so like you can say like, I want to move to Virginia. I want to move to, Colorado. Go to those places. See if they speak out to you. See if you notice that shift in your energy and where you're supposed to be.
What do you want 2023 in Florida to look like for you? Like, what are some of the things either you want to value or intentions you want to set or wanting to be aware of? Like, there's no right or wrong answer. What do you want out of 2023?
Well, I want a new car. Like a lot of people.
You're sitting on Santa's lap right now?
Yeah, exactly. I'd like a Tesla, please. No, I'd like a new car because I value independence and freedom. And right now I have a really old 2006 Corolla. And I feel like I really want to take surf lessons. And that's at least an hour drive away. And so like I value the freedom of just going where I want and not having to worry about car breaking down. So I would like a new car in 2023 so I can go do surf lessons and kind of explore more of who I am. Like I said, the last year has been great and it's been rough too. But because of those certain like scenarios, like it's kind of been put on the back burner of who I am, and so that's what the next year is going to be.
You've kind of been focusing on logistics of like, where's my house, what's my living situation going to be like.
Exactly.
And now you get to focus more on your own heart. Okay, so the final thing I like to ask everybody who comes on the podcast is, what's that little bit from within you, like that piece of truth that you have kind of ringing through yourself right now that you can share with the world?
I think you just really have to remember to trust yourself, and if something clicks for you, then follow it, go with it.
And what do you do if something does not click?
Then you try something else.
And you keep trusting yourself.
Yes.
That is very wise words. All right, everyone. It's something I have to note at the very end of this podcast that, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, but Amber is actually coming out of her Saturn return. So if you happen to know anybody who's at that 28 to 30 years of their lifetime, it's a very big time in a person's life where big changes do happen and like really huge shifts. And so it's kind of cool to be able to take this moment to reflect with her as she's coming out of her Saturn return, hearing her take on a lot of these things. And I think it's something that at any age it's important to think of, like, even if you're not necessarily contemplate, moving across the country, like you might have a much more established life, but just remembering, like, as much as it's important to pay attention when things click, it's also important to pay attention to, like, if you've been going through a time in your life for months and months where things aren't clicking and you are feeling stuck, you're like, pay attention to that. What do you need? Do you need adventure? Do you need space? Do you need freedom? Like, it doesn't have to look like that. It can be very personal to you. And I think that all of this is very worth considering and soaking up, especially as we start to think about what is on the horizon for the new year ahead. So, thank you so much for joining me today, Amber, and also thank you, listeners, for tuning in to today's episode. I'll be back next week with probably a long reflection over the many things that I've experienced, adventures, and things that I've taken away from my time out here in Florida. And I usually have our deck of cards. We always end every single episode with a card drawing, but I don't have a deck of cards. So I went to Pinterest and found a positive affirmation quote. I kind of just picked the one that had the prettiest background. So it says, "Today I accept and let go of the things that I can't control and focus my energy on the things that I can." I actually love that because there's a lot of things along our path that make it worth not doing things, or things come up that you can't totally have control over, but you do have control of how you move through it and what's going on inside of you. So if you focus more on what's possible, focus on what feels good, hopefully that continues to lead you in the right direction. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Take care, and until next time.